The Nashville Predators are headed to Europe for a couple of preseason games, and Kimmel is here to talk about that exciting trip and all things Preds as we continue here on the Locked On NHL podcast.
You're Locked On NHL, your daily podcast on the National Hockey League. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome back to the Locked On NHL podcast. Gil Martin, so glad you could be with us today, and thank you for making Locked On NHL your first listen every day. We are free and available on all platforms. It is my pleasure to welcome back to the show the co-host of Locked On Predators, Ann Kimmel. And Ann, an exciting time right now for the Nashville Predators.
Yes, there is tons of excitement here in Nashville as we watch the team. They're off in Europe now. They're prepping for the regular season. They've had kind of a shortened training camp, which has ramped up the intensity. So hockey is definitely in full swing here in Nashville.
Off to a good start this preseason, unbeaten so far, although 3-0-1. So tell me a little bit about some of the players who have stood out so far in the preseason, and does this 3-0-1 start make the team even more optimistic for this season?
It's really hard not to get a little bit optimistic, but again, the preseason is never the regular season. So I think everybody's trying to sort of temper expectations. But what we've seen at training camp for the Predators does bode well for the regular season. Last season, we had Philip Forsberg and Matt Duchene racing for the franchise record for goals in a season. They both have come back and looked fantastic. Of course, Forsberg coming back with a massive paycheck. They finally got him signed in the offseason. So I think everybody is relieved to have that behind us. So the players who played really well last season, also Roman Josi, UC Saros is back and healthy. They have looked fantastic in training camp. So that's really exciting. There have been a couple of younger players that have made an impression. And of course, everybody was very excited to get a look at new Nashville Predators, Nino Niederreiter and Ryan McDonough, which has been really great to see how quickly they've been able to kind of jump into the team and sort of catch their game up already.
Talk to me a little bit about McDonough. You know, he's got a lot of experience. He's a leader. What does he add besides what he can do on the ice?
You know, that's one of the things that head coach John Hynes and some of the other players have really emphasized when they've been asked about McDonough. They've talked about, of course, his on-ice resume is very impressive. You know, Stanley Cup winner. He's been a captain. This is somebody who has obviously tons of hockey talent and plenty of good years left in him. But the thing that is always brought up when they've been asked about McDonough, players and Hynes have said, this is somebody who is high quality off the ice. And that was a huge thing for the Nashville Predators when they brought him in. This is somebody who is a leader, just with the experience that he's had, of course, in the postseason. That's huge for the Predators to have somebody come in fresh off of, recent Stanley Cup runs. But they love who he is as a person. They love his presence in the locker room. The players have all mentioned that they just feel like he brings a good vibe. He brings a good sense into the locker room. So McDonough's been somebody that Nashville has been excited to have here, not just on ice, but definitely off the ice as well.
Talk to me about some of the players who have been a pleasant surprise so far in training camp and preseason for this team.
Well, of course, last season, the Predators saw the first of Phil Tomasino, nice young forward, and he definitely grew a lot over the season, and it was sort of a slow burn for him, but he has come back on the ice. He's put on some weight. He's done some strength training, and he really has looked very impressive in the preseason, in training camp, and in the games. So we expect a lot. There's a lot of buzz being generated about what lies ahead for Phil Tomasino. There were also a couple players in training camp that definitely caught the eye of the coaches and of the fans that were there. One of them is a former Colorado Avalanche player, Kiefer Sherwood. He played quite a bit in the AHL last season for the Colorado Eagles, had a fantastic season, and the Predators signed him. He showed up to camp ready to make a good case for some NHL minutes. And he is actually on the 27-man roster that's in Europe now. So Kiefer Sherwood is somebody that we're keeping a close eye on. Another young player that Nashville was excited to get a look at and who really lived up to a lot of his hype was a young man named Juuso Parssinen. And this is a young forward, extremely intelligent on the ice, very good sense of what is going to come next. Also good at playing sort of that physical style of hockey that the Predators like. He is not with the team in Europe. He's going to spend some time in the AHL, but Juuso Parssinen is a name that Nashville Predators fans are very aware of now. And I think in a year or two, NHL fans are going to know that name as well.
Talk to me a little bit about this trip to Europe. What is special about it for the organization, for the players, and how do they benefit from this kind of a trip?
This trip really is an exciting opportunity for the Nashville Predators. Of course, the Predators have been involved in some big NHL events. They just hosted the Stadium Series, and so this was really another great opportunity to kind of highlight Nashville with the Global Series. It also is kind of a personal thing. Our captain, Roman Josi, is, of course, from Bern, Switzerland, where the team is right now. And Nino Niederreiter, who we signed in the offseason, is also a Swiss gentleman. So they are living their best life in Switzerland, where the Predators are going to be playing their last preseason exhibition game against Bern SC tomorrow. So I think just personally, that's really special. And then they are going to be headed to Prague, one of the greatest places, as we were talking about, in the world. And they're going to be taking on the San Jose Sharks for the season opener in the Global Series, October 7th and 8th. So the team has been really excited about this opportunity, kind of a big stage. It does make for a little bit of a tricky training camp because timing is a little bit condensed. And so the coaching staff has had to really work hard on evaluating players in more of a condensed preseason than what they're used to. But overall, I think the entire organization, and I know the city of Nashville, is so excited to see these games happen in Prague.
Yeah, it should be very interesting and sort of a once in a lifetime opportunity for a lot of these players to head over there and play. Talk to me a little bit about the goaltending situation right now. How is UC Saros looking, and how are they going to divide the games? Who will be the backup?
Yeah, this is probably the most intriguing storyline in Nashville. Saros is back. He had an high ankle sprain last season, so he missed the end of the regular season. And of course, fortunately, he didn't have to watch firsthand the sweep by Colorado that the Predators had in the first round. But Saros is back. He is feeling great. He has looked fantastic in net, has not missed a beat. So it's been great to see him back to his form. As far as who the backup is and how they're going to split time, this is very up in the air still for the Predators. Everybody assumed it would be young Connor Ingram, who stepped in the playoffs and really did a good job, all things considered. But the Predators signed Kevin Lankinen for 1 year, $1.5 million deal in the offseason. So there is now kind of a race for the backup position. Kevin Lankinen has looked fantastic. His stats while he was with Chicago were not terrific, but he really has looked fantastic in the preseason and at training camp and practices. But there's still no official word from the Predators on who the backup is going to be. So everybody here in Nashville is really keeping their eye on that situation. I suspect it will be Kevin Lankinen. I also suspect Saros will still have a pretty hefty, meaty workload. He just plays well with a lot of repetition. But I think that they will really appreciate having a backup that they have a little bit of confidence in, where they can get him maybe a handful fewer starts this season and hope that that works out well down the stretch for Saros.
Going to be an interesting situation to keep an eye on. And why don't you tell our viewers and our listeners where they could find the podcast and where they could find you on social media?
Sure. So you can follow the podcast at LO_Predators on Twitter. I co-host that with Nick Morgan, my partner in crime. And you can find me on Twitter at AnnK_Mama on Ice.
All right. Ann Kimmel, always a pleasure. Thanks for joining us today.
Thanks.
Today's episode is brought to you by Simply Safe. The numbers don't lie. In the last decade, over 4 million people have chosen Simply Safe Home Security to protect their home. You don't earn the trust of that many people without doing something right. And it's Simply Safe. Your safety is the only thing that matters. I know because I use Simply Safe in my own home. They protect you with cutting-edge security technology powered by 24/7 professional monitoring agents who always have your back. Here's why I love it. I mean, you can control the system from your phone with the Simply Safe app, and it's got a crystal clear HD live stream of your security cameras and a wide variety of high-tech sensors. With 24/7 professional monitoring, Simply Safe's agents call you the moment that a threat is detected and dispatch police or first responders in an emergency, even if you're not home and can't be reached. Simply Safe blankets your home in protection with advanced sensors for every room, window, and door, HD security cameras for inside and outside your home, smarter ways to detect motion that only alert you when a threat is real, and even hazard sensors that instantly detect fires, floods, and other threats to your home. Customize the perfect system for your home in just a few minutes at simplysafe.com/LockedOnNHL. Save 20% on your Simply Safe security system when you sign up for an interactive monitoring plan and get your first month free. Visit simplysafe.com/LockedOnNHL to learn more. There's no safe like Simply Safe.